And welcome back, everybody, once again to the PCS. We are working our way up the weeks. It's week number 3, and you know what that means. We're finally on patch 1212, everybody. We got Belveth enabled. We got so many things to talk about. I'm so excited. But before we do that, I want to introduce myself. I am Devin Pyrotechnic. I'm joined by Clement Chu on this broadcast. And of course, our wonderful sponsor that makes it all possible, always by our side, is CTBC Bank. Thank you so much. As well as a big shout out to our wonderful broadcast partners, Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena for making this whole shindig possible. Now, Clement, we've had a couple of weeks of PCS, but oh boy, moving into 12-12, I think this could cause some shakeups. How you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing great, and I can't wait to see some of those new champions rise up to the occasion. And I want to remind everyone, we're already on week 3 of the PCS. There's only 6 weeks of regular season, so we're quickly approaching that halfway cutoff point.
Oh yeah, I mean things kind of start in it almost feels like slow motion while we're waiting for everything to kick back off after MSI. Yeah. It's all the where's my PCS memes, and then it kicks off, and all of a sudden here we are. 3 weeks in now and seeing how things shake out. I mean, we've had a couple of surprises so far, a few big standouts. I think some of the teams have picked up the meta changes a little faster than others, and I wonder if the teams playing catch-up are maybe feeling a little pressure there.
I think the biggest thing about this week is to see which directions the team finally solidify themselves into. We're already around the halfway point. If you haven't found a direction, you're probably a little bit too late. And what's really surprising about this week is just the amount of roster changes that we have coming into today. We have some familiar faces coming in, some brand new faces we've never seen before, and it's all happening in almost the middle of the split. So this is super exciting. I honestly felt like our first 2 weeks were a little bit slow in terms of teams actually figuring out where they wanted to go. And now we have a new patch, new roster. It almost seems overwhelming.
Oh yeah. Now let's take a look at where things stand after a couple of weeks, because you did say it started slow. I feel like it did, but the teams that were able to accelerate were the ones that found the most success. PSG Talon, no surprises, up there in the top spot, sharing with Type A J team, who they beat earlier as they are riding that 3-game win streak. Just behind them, though, it is the J team, Cinematic Universe, CFO, and DCG, both at 4-2 apiece, joined by Megabank Beyond Gaming, who are on a 2-game losing skid, but maybe they'll find some answers. After that, I think we called a couple of dark horses out, Frank Esports and Impunity, and they're currently batting 500, 50% win rate on the split, but it's Impunity that currently have the win streak.
Oh yeah, now I feel like Impunity could move even farther forward. However, it does come down to how their roster changes do shake up. I'm just going to go with a little spoiler, but currently they are going to try out 3 new players. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. If you've looked at this team, this is going to be their 6th roster so far. We just have to wait and see.
I don't know if they've ever heard the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because they had such great success, and now they're making swaps again. I don't know what to think about this team. I will say, Clement, this is the most exciting Impunity has looked for a while. This team is a mainstay of the PCS, but they have not been able to find success in the last year or two, and it does seem like this may be the chance. But in terms of teams that are also looking for success, Meta Falcon team currently in that 8th place. They're going to go ahead and have 2 and 4. But we got to talk about our player of the week as well, our MVP. How often do you see a support player rocking this column? Woody from Deep Cross Gaming, big playmaker. He had a fantastic rel game. He played Ashe support. This man can do it all.
Oh boy, and I have to be honest, I didn't expect to see Woody right here. 37 KDA on the week, getting DCG that 4th win streak so far. And I think he's really found his niche on this team. He's able to play these engagers, a lot of them sort of off meta. We saw the Ashe come in, the rel come back into the meta here. And, in the past, Woody has been known to be, not exactly the best engager. I think a lot of the times he's been criticized for either just wandering the map or going in too early, not picking his moments. But I feel like DCG has found the perfect mix to make it all work out. We see Leaky this split, basically just going for the tanks, going for the standard blue side blind picks, and opening up the map with his tank picks, while on the other side, Woody really gets to pick his spots. I feel like he doesn't have to be the main tank and the main initiator at the same time, and now he's much more patient about just waiting for the pixel perfect moments to go in, getting the crowd control over onto everyone, and it's paying off huge.
Yeah, I think it's a team effort as well, but Woody's definitely been able to shine quite effectively. And I think this is one of the reasons that this team has looked so great because he knows his role. Everyone else
Yes.
finally caught up to the same thing last week. It did seem like in week number 1, Deep Cross didn't really have a fix on the meta. They weren't really sure what to do, which was surprising given this is the team that made such a splash in the spring split for like effective planning. But Woody, I feel like this guy is the galaxy brain. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and it's aggressive. We'll take a look at his and other matches that we are going to see today as well. We're going to kick things off with Frank Esports up against Dewish Team, and of course, after that, Deep Cross up against Sem9. Both of those red side squads in the hunt for the first win. Afterwards, Taipei J Team taking on Impunity, and then afterwards, we get a battle of the banks, Clement, Megabank Beyond Gaming, and CFO taken to the Rift, as we'll close out with MFT and PSG Talent.
So a couple big things to note today. I think our third and fourth games are definitely closest in terms of the standings. Personally, for me, I feel like Megabank Beyond Gaming are on a downward skid, and then you also have Shun coming back into CFO. Would be really surprised to see Megabank again punch beyond their weight. They did so in the spring split against CFO when all the odds were against them as well. That just seems to be their thing. So I think the fourth match is going to be really exciting. The third match as well. On paper, J-Team should be dominating, but we just mentioned Impunity coming in with a whole host of new players, and they are 5-5, which is incredible for a team that, if we think about it in spring, was an 8th place squad.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see what this team can do, but before we see what those changes on the roster are, we've got to start off with this first game. Frank Esports taking to the Rift. On our blue side, it is YSKM in the top, who is the new hotness in the top lane. Joining him, of course, will be Holo in the jungle, Pretender in mid, Eminem, and Kara's down bot. This is a team that's made few changes, really only swapping out their support on occasion. And I do feel like they themselves have adjusted quite nicely to some of the roster shifts. YSKM has been unleashed on carries.
Incredibly powerful player. We saw him just punish these tanks, going on the red side and telling everyone in the PCS that no, Gnar is not a safe blue side blind pick. Picks up the Aurelia, has a great game against Beyond Gaming with it. However, Frank Esports, they're currently sitting at 3-3, and I actually think this is a bit of an underperformance considering their roster strength. We've talked about this, but all 3 of their lanes are very far ahead of the average. I think it's just about playing that 4-1 style, which has been very difficult for new teams to learn.
Yeah, they have been having a decent bit of success, but we'd like to see a bit more from this team. And speaking of teams that we really need to see step up, let's talk about Dewish, because this is a squad that's made a handful of changes. Lakunai up in the top side, definitely not quite as exciting as YSKM, but we did have some hopes for him. Meanwhile, WSL joining in the jungle, Xiaotu back into the mid lane, along with a name change once again, and then Bangtu and Enhao. The problem with this team is it kind of feels like they don't have a winning lane.
True. They don't have a single position that is ahead in terms of gold, and they are actually dead last in terms of the gold difference at 15 minutes, almost a 5,000 gold deficit. And on top of that, it just seems like they aren't able to control any phase of the game. They don't have initiative. There's 0% first blood rate, 0% first drakes, and 0% barons. So if you look at that across, it's early, mid, and late game. You don't really see a phase of the game where they really excel. So I think for Dewish Team, a couple of things that they really need to get right is number one, you have to have a winning lane. Maybe it will be top lane. It's going to be a tall task against YSKM. I think Lacune, from my perspective, is more of a defensive fill-in. I feel like for Dewish Team, their main priority is still to get mid jungle rolling. So the side lanes are kind of just picking for safety rather than winning the lane necessarily.
Right, and I think Lacune can probably try to do the same thing. I mean, we have seen him play more Gwen than anything else, but there have been more defensive picks. I think you're right about like kind of trying to go for the mid game, and not only that, in the mid lane, they do draft for a game plan. It just kind of feels like the issue that Dewish Team run into is they don't really play towards the draft win conditions, and that's the real head scratcher.
Yeah, a lot of times it just comes down to the lanes being too far behind. We talked about their best compositions, and I really do think it comes down to their poke comps. We've seen this from Xiaotu, where he picks a Zoe with Jace. Kind of off meta, but definitely works for him. At least suits his playstyle. And then you also have the Ezreal from Bangtu. And then Lacune himself actually went with the Shyvana pick with that Flame Breath. just to add on top of the poke. So they
Oh,
do
yeah.
have a certain composition that works for them. The problem is I just feel like they're too far behind in most games to make anything realistically work. So what I'm looking forward is WSL, I think, is going for a vertical jungle almost every game. Try to come up with a red side level 1 strategy that actually gets you a first one. If that happens, then I think that opens the floodgates to a lot of different opportunities.
Well, you talk about a red side strategy, already seeing the Belveth banned away, as well as the Zeri, which has been more or less a must ban. One of the things that has shifted up on patch 12.12 compared to 11, Zeri even higher priority across the board. So no surprises to see that out of the hands of M&M. I do think Duish team know what they're doing in the draft. Let's see if that continues as Sejuani's taken away by Frank.
So they are taking away safe options already in terms of the top lane. I think that fits YSKM's playstyle. He doesn't want to contend with the tank. He wants a squishier champion that he can actually just 1v1 solo. If looking down the rosters right here, I really think something like Wukong still up, Viego still being up, even though the nerfs have happened, haven't really changed their priorities all that much on 12.12. Still very much go-to champions coming in here. I don't really see a Zir ever being a first. Okay, I guess I have to swallow my words right off the bat.
I mean, like, I agree with you, but here's the weird thing, too. Pretender hasn't even picked it up yet, and we haven't even had that much time to talk about Pretender because I feel like he's had trouble adjusting to the new normal in his team, which is that he's not the main carry.
That is true. I feel like in the previous, in Spring Split, while we saw Frank Esports was the majority of the damage was actually coming from Pretender, and he was able to play Vex, these critical playmakers, to such a high degree, just wipe teams whenever you saw the opportunity. And this split, he's basically a wave clear bot and waiting for YSKM to come online. So I'm not sure about this Azir. I never feel like a blind pick Azir against Xiaotu, who has a lot of champions that quote-unquote do counter Azir, is a great option. But we'll see. This is kind of disrespectful. I gotta mention this.
I mean, it is a winless team. I think Frank are playing a little loose and fast with the draft. We'll see if Duish can punish and get themselves their first win. I mean, they'd be loving that as they get 2 high prio picks. They get Xiaotu's Zoe, and they managed to pick up a Wukong, which, despite dropping a little bit in priority on this patch, is still pretty heavily up there. Senna comes in. We should expect the Kench as well. I think M&M and carries have been one of those bot lanes that have really liked opting into this.
Yep. Super safe and gives you a tremendous amount of scaling. I also just want to say that they pack a ton of wave clear. And whenever you're playing a 4-1 composition, wave clear is the most important part of your game. And this is what I was talking about in the pregame. Is I feel like Frank Esports, the current way that they're winning games doesn't really have all that much to do with the way you're supposed to macro a 4-1 composition. They're actually just winning by winning through the lanes themselves. That's not typically how you win a 4-1 split push comp. You're typically supposed to rely on wave clear and scaling from your champions to withstand early game deficits. That's not what's happening to Frank Esports. So we'll see if they're just trying to like sort of weight train themselves. Go up against a Duish team that is most likely trying to strike early, trying to withstand that, and actually play out a macro game the way a 4-1 is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see, sticking to the game plan, playing it out pretty clean, but it's hard to take it away when Frank have been winning games by just full-on lane clapping people. As we get into ban phase 2, the Impelius picked up, of course, by bang 2. Now we see Xin off the board, followed by the Rel trying to put Enhao away from these big tanky engages. Maybe they're watching Woody's game.
Yeah, I think the main idea here is you have 2 lanes that are not great skirmishing lanes. You have the Tahm Kench, who doesn't really engage all that well, and then the Azir and the Senna are sort of champions that can't run into river blindly. So you're trying to take away as much potential for engages and skirmishes early on from Duish team. Really, they probably should be taking away another engage support. I think Yumi's fine in that area as well. Just you don't want the Yumi Wukong combo to come in very deadly when it comes to that. Yeah. We've actually seen them run that a couple times. So it's taking away engage.
I mean, the Amumu has been rising in priority, mostly on patch 12.12, but we have already seen it in the league previously. I would not be entirely surprised to see it be Enhao's first crack at the champion, though.
Amumu is... the buffs are very They aren't subtle buffs. They're huge, massive number buffs. You saw the bandage toss go from 70 mana to just costing 30 mana, so it's much more spammable.
Heck of a discount.
Yeah, it's over a 50% discount. And you also have just extra 50 flat damage on the Curse of the Sad Mummy at each individual rank, which is actually quite a bit. 50 damage is nothing to scoff at earlier on. So I think Amumu is going to be one of those mainstays. You're going to see a lot of teams go into this one. Great engage potential, great dragon potential as well.
Oh, yeah. So, Frank Esports, they're going to start rounding things out here. We do see the Jax for YSKM. No surprises. Most played champion, but it's been all playmakers. This guy has not played a single weak side champion in this entire split, and he's just been styling on people. So, you got to love the debut. Trundle comes in for Holo to round things out a little bit as well. And as you suspected, Clement, you may very well see the weak side holding pattern, even though Gragas is a bit more of an AP threat these days.
I do really like the Gragas pick here. It actually has a fairly decent matchup against something like a Jax. You slow attack speed, you can knock him back. It is actually a very safe lane. Very difficult for Jax to actually get a kill onto this lane. And like you said, the AP builds, I actually love the AP builds. There's so much fun things you can do with it. It actually works very well with the poke comp as well. You have disengage, you have burst potential. I really like this Gragas pick coming in from Lakune. I think it fits the comp very, very nicely.
All right, so now that we're all done in here, I mean, it does feel like Douche team, they got a lot of what they wanted in terms of their own preference and the priority. It's always been down to the execution, but, like, does it feel like Frank gave them everything they wanted?
I would say that this should be a very comfortable composition for Douche team. You have the bot lane where, okay, so Amumu is going to be kind of hard to play in lane. It's more of a game bot rather than, you know, trying to hold out the lane itself. But I would say that Aphelios is actually fairly safe in lane. He's got self-sustain, he's got wave clear, so the weakness in their laning phase, mainly stemming from Bane 2, has been kind of patched up by that pick. Top lane is playing safe, a holding pattern like we said. It's very difficult to die if you're playing Gragas against Jax. It should not happen. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but it should not happen.
You never know.
Theory. And then your mid jungle actually is comfort pick all the way through. You've got the strongest jungler pick, and then you also have Xiaotu's best champion. So I feel like this is great for Douche team. And for Frank, this is an interesting draft. I feel like this is a bit of a disrespect draft. This is a let's put the training wheels on. Let's see how much weight we can actually carry on our back.
Is this limit testing? Is this what we're doing? Did they think it was a practice tool?
I honestly feel like this is a practice patch 100% because they're going against the grain in so many different levels. You're blind picking your mid laner wave clear. You're basically telling Douche team, like, yes, we know that you have counters and those counters are actually your main pocket picks, but we don't care. And on the other side, they're also blind picking a champion to helm a 4-1 composition. That also is a pretty big no-no, but they just don't care. So we'll see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's both teams are one team is trusting its draft, the other team is trusting its hands. And I suppose, given that consistency in-game has not really been the strength of Douche team, Frank have that level of read. The curious thing here, too, right, is the comfortable poke comp is going into insane amounts of wave clear. So there's a lot of back and forth, tit for tat that we're going to see here as we load up for our first game of week number 3 here for the PCS Summer Split 2022. And looky here. A little bit of shenaniganery for Frank Esports. It's too bad they won't find anything just yet.
Everybody knows that Douche team always has some sort of a red side level 1.
Oh, someone's going to be a real sad mummy. There's the knockup, and how? He's got nowhere to go, rooted for days. Man, Frank made that first blood look easy.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that, you know, despite throwing so many red side level 1 shenanigans, Douche team actually fall prey to an offensive one themselves. They are going to get a ward onto the top side, so both sides should know where the junglers start. And I think that does favor Douche team just a little bit because they tend to do have the weaker lanes right here. As we see YSKM is getting a bit of damage onto Lakune.
Yeah. Nice Grasp of the Undying, you know, as Jax is going to be able to stay in lane. And whoa, he gets getting really aggressive. Frank have just decided to give absolutely no quarter to Douche team. Counter-Strike level 1, finds the stun. Is he going to force the Gragas out of lane?
It's gonna make him very uncomfortable, and I would expect a rather early TP coming in from Lacune.
Not
YSK in
losing
here,
any creeps.
he's doing the incredibly smart thing right here. Let's see if he gets to actually zone him off of EXP. Okay, so Lacune does walk back and pick up the 3 melee minions, but at the expense of a lot more of his HP bar. And this gets pretty dangerous. If the Jax gets to level 3 before you do, that's going to be, 2 empowered strikes straight onto the face. It's going to be rather rough.
There we go. Yeah, YSK just does not care about minion damage. I mean, he's going to be able to sustain through it all. He does have the corrupting pod. These teams have very different win conditions. Frank Esports, they're putting a lot on YSK to try and get ahead, and so far he's starting as WSL is spotted down bot side. They will have eyes on the Duish team jungler. I haven't really talked about how effective Wukong has been this split pretty much across the world right now. Double cast on the Cyclone at 6. Such a great ganking jungler as well as a team fight initiator. YSK, man, he's denied Lacune every CS.
So the good thing here is at least they know where the Trundle is, so they shouldn't be too worried about a straight-up dive happening. YSK will make Lacune's life quite miserable, but I don't think he actually has the potential for a straight-up underneath the tower solo kill here. Indeed, you see YSK, not really trying. He's kind of goading for an auto attack by Lacune to try and draw the minion aggro there, but Lacune's not going to bite. He knows that he can stay safe, and he knows where the jungle is on the map, so it's uncomfortable, but he should be fine.
He's just got to survive. That's all he's got to do. This is always going to be a rough ride for Duish team. It's 1,000 gold lead just to start, and that's all off CS differential. We haven't really talked about what's been going on in the other lanes because it's just been so exciting up here. It's a Jax just absolutely stealing Agragas' lunch money over and over.
This is where things are going to get a little bit rough. When the jungle comes into play here, and he's on the top side, that just means that Lacune has to, keep very close attention to a lot of his cooldowns. Something we didn't mention is that he is running phase rush right here. Bot lane.
A little bit of engage back and forth. After that first blood, it's been a little quieter of an affair down bottom, and I think Bang 2 very much appreciating the fact that he doesn't have to go up against a hyper-aggressive bot side, because your Aphelios is going to have really solid scaling. You're going to be feeling pretty good about it. I feel like the important thing for Duish team is for Xiaotu to actually be working out well, but he's a level down in a significant amount of CS in the hole versus Pretender.
Yeah, and we didn't pay much attention to this, but this is, I think, the main reason that Duish team hasn't been able to wow us is we really expected them to play a mid-jungle focused team. You have WSL and Xiaotu connecting in from the same place, while the rest of the 3 players are in a different locale. So, ideally it should be the 2 people that are on the same ping levels, that are kind of playing together with the same mind. And that always seems to be the Xiaotu game plan with all of his Chinese junglers. But this split so far, they haven't found any first blood so far, and we just haven't seen that synergy we expected from Xiaotu's early game champions and WSL's very strong duelist picks. That's the most baffling thing to me. Like, we've seen WSL pick things like the Nidalee, pick things like the Trundle, but they really haven't worked out as a 2v2 in this mid lane just so far.
Yeah, and that's been the trouble right now, because cards on the table, they're definitely looking for Xiaotu to try and make the big plays, and he's played under many different jerseys for this organization, and even in a couple of roles and different names, but we just haven't seen him step up and find the success. He's on a very comfortable champion. I feel like this might be Duish team's best shot, just given the fact that they got what they wanted in draft, but they're already falling significantly behind in this game in 2 out of 3 lanes.
Yeah, top lane's going really rough. Bottom lane, this is sort of an expected matchup where you do see the Senna Tomcat just having a bit of a lead. But then mid lane, this is one of those lanes that actually Zoe can put a lot of pressure onto the Azir, given a little bit of jungle pressure. Zoe, you have the crowd control right there. You actually outrange the Azir in most scenarios, so you can keep a relatively high HP level to go for the all-ins. But the jungle pressure just hasn't been there, and now we see Duish team trying to get a gank off somewhere else. If it does turn into a 3v3, though, I don't fancy their chances.
Both teams actually waiting and biding their time a little bit. Both junglers on 5. I think Holo, yeah, it should be seen by WSL there. So playing very conservatively as Duish, but they don't know about WSL right now, and he's actually going to have to back away. Okay, gets an auto off before he clones out. I mean, could have been worse.
Goes over the wall right here, and I feel like any time you see the junglers both in the bottom lane, YSKM just has a smile on his face because he knows he gets to get some of that sweet alone time with the Gragas.
21 CS lead. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is really rough. At least Lacune, another thing we do have to mention is Lacune did burn his teleport a little bit earlier. So, YSKM could have some ability to roam across the map. We could see Pretender go somewhere else, and then YSKM just match for his lane. Some sort of a play like that is definitely possible. And it just means that, Lacune is under a lot more pressure because there are going to be those timing windows where he cannot match the teleport, and that's going to be a prime opportunity for Holo to just go up there, force him out of lane, and do whatever he wants in the top side.
Yeah, I have to keep eyes on it right now. Lacune just trying to stop the bleeding, already lost out on a plate. You do see DWT team actually pinging on the Herald, but right now they're starting on Dragon. So in terms of neutral objectives, at least they have the inside track here, and good ward coverage, even in the back of the pit, means that they actually know if Frank were going to try to contest, but they get the timing right with Holo being over by blue buff.
And this is, I think, the strongest part about Dewey's team's composition in the early to mid game, is they just have so much initiation power and range on champions like the Amumu and champions like Zoe. So this convergence between their mid lane and bot lane is pretty much unstoppable on the side from Frank Esports. So I like Frank Esports here. They just say, you know what, this is a little bit scary. There's too much AoE CC here. We're just going to let it be. And they're going to try to walk around these corners. I just say try to, as MF actually gets the red? No!
Oh, no! That such a feels bad man. He held his smite. WSL. You know better.
I'm at a loss for words. That was a 2v1 versus a jungle smite, and somehow MNM still wins out. That's not so
yeah. Man, yeah, just full-on leashing for the other team. That's rough. And it is just execution, right? I mean, like, I think this is the thing. Dewey's team sometimes struggles with the timing, with trying to get the plays right on. But speaking of timing, it is going to be the 2v1 up top side. You already see Lacune trying to set up for the defense. Does get the barrel knockback and subjugate on, but there's still a big old fat wave of minions to contend with. And now that he's burned all of his tools, he's only got that flash left. I think they might be going in for round 2, Clement. Plate taken out, looking for the setup. Minions will go. Okay, they're going to back off. And Enhao actually was already up this way too. But it just means more free hitting down bot.
Yeah, well, you did see that Enhao had to be pulled towards the top lane to save it. And I'll be honest, I feel like Dewey's team actually, the red buff wasn't really worth going to. I think they lost too much tempo on that. So they weren't able to do a dive in the bot lane. And on the flip side, Frank just said, okay, we know where the jungler is. We're just going to go for an open play onto the top side. Kudos to Lacune though. That was a really nice explosive barrel. He was able to knock back Jax in the middle of the middle of the leap strike, and that basically meant that Holo got a little bit greedy. He didn't drop the Herald the first time around, and afterwards he was just like, okay, the wave is here. After the Herald goes down, we might have a little bit of trouble here. People should be rotating in. They just hold on to it instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the silver lining, is that Dewey's team, they've not lost, they're not giving up a death to the Jax just yet. And Lacune's job is to just hold on. Like, yes, he's down CS. Yes, he's not winning this lane. Yes, he's losing plates. But that's unavoidable. I mean, you're up against YSKM on the Jax. That's super hard to deal with. Unfortunately, the rest of the map isn't really doing a whole lot better. I think Bang2 and Enhao are managing to at least keep pace, but it's against the Senna Kench. Like, you're struggling a little bit, getting that poked. YSKM's just taking another plate down. It's not even 11 minutes on the clock, and they just extend the lead. But they are denying kills, and that's important. So far, only the first blood this game.
Yeah, now Dewey's team, they do have their level 6 online for their bottom side, so this is an incredibly strong gank squad. Unfortunately from them, Frank Esports just isn't there. We see the pings going down, they know what is coming, and we actually saw Eminem take a detour towards the mid lane, just roaming across and initiating the trade first. So really smart play here by Frank. They don't want to go into the bot lane death trap. They just opt to get tempo instead.
Yeah, and it looks like Bang2 and Enhao WSL are finding a hard time getting on the inside track, and it's actually WSL caught out. He does dash the wall, so he's going to be able to get out, but can't quite seal well the Krugs. Shelly just has free reign on this tower. As Holo kind of just moved up, there goes the ultimate explosive cask. Still can't quite finish off Shelly. There we go. But that's 2 towers taken up top for nothing. Here comes WSL.
Pure profit.
Sleepy Trouble Bubble, that's a Sleepy Azir. They will be able to set things up here, and the Flash Emperor's Divide denied the kill! WSL zoned away by a Holo! Oh man, Frank, just stuff him.
Oh, Pretender doesn't even have to flash on that one. What an amazing Emperor's Divide. He actually manages to get both champions right there. Holo with the free pickup, and man, we talked about Frank being coming in with a disrespectful draft. I think these plays are even more disrespectful.
They keep getting away with it though, Clement. So now the quietest lane has been topside, but it just explodes into 2 towers. Pretender gets ganked the turn because Holo was already there. You could just see the mechanics working, the cogs turning. This team knows how to react so much faster than what Dewish team can bring. And now the Goldeen's balloon. We've got ourselves 5,000 gold. Let's take a look at this replay because it started out with a great setup from Xiaotu.
Oh, Pretender is able to hard win out this lane just by himself with the wave clear, with the poke against Xiaotu. And let's watch how he shuffles away from this one. So he doesn't know that the Wukong is coming, but he already preemptively puts himself towards the top of the lane, create that extra distance as WSL finally does come in. He gets tagged here, but manages to get the E off, then the shielding from the Senna to help out. And just watch this one. He blocks the Nimbus strike. WSL's got nowhere to go and has to pop his Cyclone defensively to save his mid laner, and that doesn't even work. Holo is just able to run him down.
Yeah, at that point, you know you're not getting away from it, Trundle. One of the issues with the Zoe, when you portal jump, you gotta come right back to the start. And Xiaotu, this is the difference. He's just been zoned so out of the CS that he just hasn't been able to complete his mythic item yet, and he was facing down the Ludens.
That was just pure confidence coming in from Pretender. Like, I think most Azirs would be thinking about the flash button, but he held on to that one, knew he could get the Emperor's Divide to go down just the way he wanted. Maybe Bang 2 and now can find something here, but there's no gravity.
Moonlight Vigil even burned his heal as well, and now WSL trying to hold on to the lane between Pretender and Holo. So much damage to the pillar. Actually knocks the Wukong away. Sand Soldier's doing serious work. First pick Azir, by the way.
I guess it works out. What can I say? You know, first pick Azir is, I feel like it's a pick that gives a lot away. It's a champion that, yes, you can actually gank quite effectively with certain combos. If you have champions that have those gap closers to go behind Azir, then Azir cannot use the E to get away. Like the Shurima Shuffle actually stops at champions. So I always feel like it's a little bit risky, you know, if someone runs something like a Wukong that can just have that gap closer onto a minion wave or something like that, you put yourselves in a lot of bad situations. But Pretender, even going up against what, you know, is considered a direct counter in the LPL, he handles this perfectly. Now Bangsu is going to have to burn that flash.
Ah, boy, even bringing the Sentinel from downtown. Flash isn't going to matter at this point. Carries just licks him down. It's going to open the floodgates here for Frank Esports to start off on Rift Herald number 2. Earlier on, they cut the Dragon stack as well, so Dewish just... Their game plan is falling to pieces here, Clement. They were trying to play for the poke, but they just cannot match the damage.
I think the same issue is here as we outlined. They just didn't start any plays. They didn't get anything to really work out. I feel like if you're running a composition like this, you should be able to find a lot more skirmishes, should be able to stack Drakes. But I just feel like they lost control of the top lane a little bit too early on, and that kind of cascaded into the bot side as well. Maybe they can find something here. Wrong bush.
Okay, they stop it. They stop carries at the last second. He flashes away, gets the lick off, Enhao on the chase, looking to try and cut him off.
Jack's becoming though.
They couldn't kill him in time, and now the things may turn. 2 TPs expended, and YS Chem's on the board officially. As Enhao heads for the hills, that'll surely be a tower.
Oh boy, now this is looking from bad to worse. I feel like Dewish team, they really need to learn how to hard commit to single objectives and single sides. I feel like a huge problem with this game is that they actually roamed Enhao top lane and tried to like save Herald to no avail. Well, I feel like they should have just hard committed to bot side and getting skirmishes off in those 2 lanes. Now it may be a little bit too late, but we have seen YSKM take some really risky plays. He's not one to shy away from the 1 versus 3, so maybe DWT team can try to entice him and get a comeback that way.
It's going to be difficult, though. Right now, it's just nothing that Frank really have to do because they just easily secure up these towers. And how gets get pulled down. This big Moonlight Vigil there. Bang2 trying his best. Maybe they can find a kill, but doesn't quite walk away with it. Here comes Xiao2. Doesn't have the damage to finish the job, and the poke is there, but it's just not enough. As the tower falls, they clear away Shelly, but the gold keeps spiraling out of control now. Clement, it's an 8,000 gold lead at 17 minutes.
Yeah, this is... I feel like Frank Esports are almost a little bit disappointed about the results of this game because they drafted themselves into... it's basically an Iron Man exercise. You know about the Straw Man exercise? This is an Iron Man exercise where you try to see what the worst your opponents can do, and they didn't really get punched at all.
Xiao2's down. I'm gonna even get
kill,
some.
Please.
They couldn't quite do it. Kara's still strong enough. The Tom Kench will not die, but WSL sure will. Now Eminem's picking up a couple kills on the board too. They're bringing Karius in. Once again, they knock him to the side. Maybe, there we go. Bang2 can finally get the kill, but do they have enough left in the tank to keep going here? Bang2 Lacune trying to hold the line up against the minions, but the Sand Soldiers are giving him hell. Doesn't matter. Frank don't need to fully commit. They got 20 seconds on the next dragon.
Well, at least DWT team are on the board. We're talking about silver linings.
It's not a perfect game. They got the tower earlier. Bang2 is the only one playing positive at the moment, and that's just because he's been able to play safe.
Yeah, we're gonna watch that again. This is just getting absolutely ridiculous. We have to remember that this Tom Kent is playing with a Senna, so he's actually the one earlier mythic. He's incredibly tanky with that Iceborne Garment earlier on, Frostfire Garment. And, you know, he's able to survive tons of punishment. Then we have WSL rushing in to the Senna route, unable to stick on the Tom Kent. And, yeah, come on, this carries didn't really need to do that. But he's styling. Supports want to have some fun sometimes. So he went in.
Yeah, you know, a little bit of for fun gaming there, but all the same, Duish will pick it up. I mean, at this point, it kind of feels like the game plan is just hold on, turtle super hard, and then you're just hoping Bang2 is going to carry with the Philios.
At this point, it's going to be a while for Bang2 to carry, but Lacune and Xiao2 do pack some damage here. I feel like they probably have more potential with the burst combo. We have seen this combo being used in the LPL. Bragas, you're just supposed to cast someone back, stun them up. It's a whole CC chain. Not going to get it this time, though.
Oh, and he goes in, but the team's not on the same page, and they just delete him off the map. YSKM bops him, and now the chase is on again. Leap strike, and everybody scatters at this point. Now Xiao2 getting slid back. Lacune maybe even throws the barrel, but it's just an affectation at this point. WSL shredded by Sand Soldiers. Oh boy, Frank Esports, they're just looking to close this one out soon. It's not even 20 minutes. There's no Baron on the Rift yet, and they're knocking at the base.
Yeah, DWT might be going for the fastest record loss right here in the PCS. I believe it was 20 minutes and 47 seconds, something like that one.
I don't know if they're going to get it this time, but it's going to be close either way. WSL trying to bait out YSKM, who is absolutely not falling for it. So they already take him off the board. Xiao2 soon to come up, and the rest of his team already evaporating. There goes Enhao, there goes the inhibitor. And this could be the record if Frank want to end, but they will take it easy for now and end the push here.
Yeah, Frank going back to get a couple more items. I felt like in the last couple of fights, you did see the potential for DWT team's composition. There's so much burst. There's so much crowd control lockdown. It could have really worked out if they were on even footing, but the 8,000 gold difference just way too much to overcome, and the coordination here is really weird. I have to say, like, Amumu looked very tired. Like, I think he wanted to go back to the crypt, you know? He's just like, I've had enough of this, and just went into the enemy team.
Yeah, coordination has been an issue that's plagued this squad back when they were Hurricane, even before when they were Alpha Esports. And, you know, we asked this question about that, and it just hasn't been resolved. They've changed some players, but the issues seem to remain the same. And it does come down to the fact that this team doesn't really seem to be able to have winning lanes. They don't seem to be able to get their mid-jungle online. I want to give kudos to Lacune for, you know, not giving up a death in lane. But it doesn't matter because YSKM just shoved him in hard and then teleported for the plays.
Yeah, he still lost that lane pretty hard without much jungle intervention. The level 1 was pretty disastrous, if we have to be completely honest about that one. So I just feel like Jewish team, you know, I really feel like they should hard force a little bit more for their plays. Everyone knows what you're going to do. There's no real surprises, and NL once again is just caught in such a weird position. It looks like he's serving as good bait, though.
Yeah, I suppose. They just need to get the damage. They need to get it all on a single target. The problem is, at this point, Karras is the one on the front line. Holo is right behind him, and maybe YSKM's in the mix. It's really hard to find one of those priority targets here. I think ideally you want Pretender, but he's so slippery as Zenhao gets caught again. The root down. Karras even throws out the lick, and the threat is just way too real. Jewish team can't even peek into their own jungle.
Yeah, and at this point, they really don't have enough damage to even pick off any of these targets at this point. So I think Frank Esports, they can happily do whatever they want here. The Jax is missing on the map, and what they don't know is Frank is already converged here.
Oh, no. They weren't just done with dinner. They wanted a little midnight snack there. Zhao, though, does limp away. Maybe there's a chance as the Baron gets taken down without the help of Karras. He throws on the Great Health, still will not die. And how drops.
Double.
YSKM with the double kill already. And make
That's
it a triple. Looking for more. They will not give him the quadra, though. Pretender says, hey, I still want some.
The flashes come in from Eminem, trying to give the quadra kill over to the top laner. Lacuna is having none of this. He's just going to scoot on away from maybe even his own Nexus at this point. Nothing much he can do. And Frank Esports close this one down easy.
Talk about a disrespect game. Well, they were certainly having a whole lot of fun. And Jewish team, not a lot they could do here as Frank closed this out, giving up almost nothing.
I gotta say, I actually sort of like this from Frank Esports coaching staff. You really want to make sure that your compositions and the way you handle your concepts are foolproof. But I have to say, even in this condition where they showed all of their cards, where the draft is not really supposed to work in a 4-1 situation, they still overshot the card. They did not meet any sort of resistance. It was a coast from start to finish.
Yeah, it's hard to say what Frank are going to take away from this, but I do like that they kind of went for a little bit of a limit testing composition, did not get punished in any way, shape, or form, and I really think this was Dewish's best chance to show us something so far, and they just did not. This team struggles continue, but for Frank, hey, you know, a bit of a highlight reel, some montage moments, YSKM, already a known quantity. They didn't really have to really reveal anything for him, and he kind of just got to pub stomp up topside.
Yeah, just beautiful level 1 coming in from him. If you're going for the grasp of the Undying, these short trades early on actually hurt a lot. So he stays in. I think he got 3 procs of grasp just from that level 1, and it really it sets the Gragas so far behind.
What do you do if you're Lacuna? I mean, this is YSKM, right? I mean, I feel like he's made it his mission to just like style on everybody, and there's a reason we talk about him as one of the most exciting prospects we've had. He's really lived up to it already.
Now, it was a really good level 1 read. They got the early kill onto Enhao, got the ward down on blue buff. They know that the Wukong was starting out topside, so the most likely position where the Gragas is going to come through are through those 2 brushes. And YSKM actually he basically gets the creep jack on both of the brushes at the same time in the level 1. And it just turns into a really, really bad start of the laning phase. Just absolute disaster. And I think that most times Gragas will be behind by like 15-20 CS. I think that's completely normal. But you know, this Gragas was down 40-50 CS and also 2 towers very early on. And I think that's just kind of you can't really recover from that sort of a start, whatever team you are.
And while we were so focused on the top side too, you know, a smaller lead but still significant was opening up in the mid lane. I mean, I wanted to talk about how good Pretender was looking. And this was into a Zoe matchup, something that should be able to punish him. The one time we nearly saw it, it was just a brilliant show of nerve from Pretender to just walk up where he knew Holo was in the area, could come join him, but he was able to get the Emperor's Divide off, deny so much, and it was just such a beautiful play. And I think that's the kind of thing we wanted to see from Pretender. Was the Azir first pick necessary? No. Was it great? Yes. And this is the game start to finish. A nice, easy coast uphill to a victory.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure PSG and Pretender right here are the only people that will blind pick an Azir like that. It is highly disrespectful. Azir, of course, is a very strong pick, but you know, jumping over the jungle priority is not something you expect to see all that much, even on patch 12.12. So I think this is just an Iron Man strategy from Frank, and congratulations. I felt like it worked out quite well. But
Gotta
I
crank
will
up the
say,
difficulty a bit.
yeah, I think they should probably try to crank it up even more the next time they face Jewish team. To no one's surprise, YSKM, if you see someone get 50 CS lead in their lane pretty much single-handedly, you kind of have to give him the MVP. Great stuff from him, you know, a great triple kill at the end, great target selection. And I feel like this game, something he did really well is he didn't try to hard push the lane all that much. He actually stayed with the team for the majority of it, because if your team's very far ahead, you can actually take the 5v5 against a stronger 5v5 composition on the other side. So I like that adaptation, and it's always interesting to see a 4-1 comp, because 4-1 is one of the hardest compositions to master for any team. The amount of defensive and offensive juggling that you have to do on the map is incredibly intricate, and it's hard to say this for Frankie Sports because we haven't seen a successful example of them actually playing through that juggle. They've either just crushed the laning phase and just said, well, we're just better players, or they've just been crushed on the flip side. So it's still kind of hard to see if they can manage it.
I am curious to see who will test them going forward, and that matchup should be quite explosive. All the same, they improved to 4-3, and we are going on a short break. When we return, don't want to go anywhere because we got Deep Cross Gaming taking on Sem 9.